is, what, August 4th. It's a Friday, the sixth day of the week. It's 9:57 a.m. Spent a lot of time this morning studying what's going on in the world, and it's truly amazing. There's so many things going on. It's amazing. For those of you that are interested, I put a lot of good videos, well, the links to, up on my YouTube, on my Telegram. And there's videos there about the Chinese banks, how people have to go wait online outside for an hour and talk to security guards before they could go in the bank and use the ATM machine and get their money out. People are having their funds frozen for various reasons of accusations of possible criminal or otherwise wrongdoing. And the banks, the people are really freaking out and they're upset. Real estate's crashing. They said 500,000, 500,000 restaurants in China are closed, they're gone. Things are bad. How many restaurants could the joint have? I mean, 500,000, it's a lot of restaurants. What are they? I mean, maybe they got 1 million or they got 1.5 million or something. I mean, you know, what are we talking about here? This is incredible. Okay? So, Trump started with the sanctions, didn't he? Obama, I don't think, was so big on sanctions. Trump was big on sanctions. I don't remember too much about Obama anymore, but Trump, I mean, it's been, many years. He's gone quite a few years, so I don't remember what went on. But Trump was big on sanctions, and Biden is very big on sanctions, and they're using sanctions a lot. And they apparently had a lot of good economists, analysts and stuff, and it's working. I mean, they're wrecking China and Russia with sanctions in very, very effective ways. No doubt about it. One second, I gotta see what this is. It's probably not a lot of anything, but let me take a look. Notifying me of some package. What they try to do, these delivery companies, is they try like crazy to get you to say, no, I don't want the package delivered to my house, put it in a distribution company. So they usually put it in all the way down what we call the bottom of the hill by the Sea of Galilee, some grocery store that wants people coming in there, because it's real easy to buy something when you go in there. And then you got to show them ID, you got to show them the email with the tracking number, and then they look for the package and they find it and they give it to you. And it's a general pain in the neck, and you probably got to burn a gallon of gas to get there and back, which is $8. And, you know, I don't want to do that. So they bring it to the house, and then the drivers don't know where your house is, and I live in something that's legally a mashab, basically, so I'm trying to fold my brim down. I better steam this hat and get it to go down permanently or something. So, this is a very old hat. It's probably 60 years old, and it's, I got it used, and it's easy to mold it. It's really high quality. These hats last over 100 years, these old ones. The hats from the 1930s and 40s in America, predominantly Stetson, were of a quality that is unheard of today. There's a few little hat makers that bought the machines that Stetson had and were making high-grade hats, but I don't think any of them are really in business anymore. Rand's hats, it's somewhere in, I don't know where it was, Montana maybe, used to make them. The guy Rand was making them, and he sold his business when probably 15 years ago or something, or 12, 15 years ago, I guess something like that is a guess. And the new guys came in and they didn't do it the old way he did it, so they're trying to ride off the name and they're not doing that well. They're doing okay. They make an okay hat, but they don't make anything like the guy Rand used to make in the 80s. He made superb hats. So they don't do it anymore. But when you feel the old hats, the felt is made from beaver and it's very soft and short. The newer hats, the way they get them to feel good is they make it like 4 or 5 times longer. Maybe like that, or maybe 2 or 3 times longer. And it feels soft, but it's not the same kind of soft. It's not the same kind of felt, and the hat's not the same. The structure of the hat, not the felt, the structure. And the old ones are soft and moldable, and the new ones they're built like a rock, mold. Now some of the people, the cowboy type people today, like the new hats that way. They enjoy it. And so be it for them. But the old hats take the weather. They take the rain and the snow and the sleet and the hail and the heat and the water and everything else. The new hats, only the high-end hats are really going to take those, except for a Cooper. A Cooper's an Australian hat made from hair, H-A-R-E, rabbit type thing. The special one they have, and you could stand, I've seen people stand there with a hose. Somebody gets up on a ladder with a hose and pours water down on the hat for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And the only water that gets inside is through the vent holes. And those are cheap hats, and those are great hats, but they don't look like the high-grade beaver hats, and they don't feel like it, but they are good hats. So if you want a hat that you can wear, do whatever you want with it, and it's going to last you, 40 to 100 years, you get in a Cooper, and they're very inexpensive. And the big companies like Resistol and Stetson are owned by a company called Hatco, H-A-T-C-O. They're both owned by Hatco. And Hatco's a big corporation that just bought these companies to use the name. And the new hats are nowhere near what the old hats used to be. So the hats were okay up to let's say 1965. The 60s hats were still pretty okay. The 50s hats were kind of nice, pretty good, very pleasant. The 40s and the 30s hats was super duper, and some of the hats in the 20s, 1910, 1900 were superb. But when they get so old, how do you find a hat from 1920 that is still serviceable? It's hard, that's a 100-year-old hat already. So and there are people that own them, but go try to find them. So what you can find is 1950s and 60s hats without a tremendous amount of trouble. So if you know what to look for when you go to like eBay and you're patient and you don't mind waiting 3 years to get what you're looking for, you can generally find it. Remember, you got to find the right model hat you want. Is it a fedora or a western hat? What is it? You got to find the color. Like, you don't want a moron color. A lot of these hats were made in white. Not a lot, but you don't want a white hat. It's going to get dirty real easily. So you want to get something that's an off color, like a tan, a gray, a silver, a brown is my favorite. Black is not so bad, So then you need your size, you need the color, you need the style, and you need the manufacturer. So you better be prepared to wait a few years. The most popular hat sizes are probably 7, 7 1/8, and 7 1/4. And I'm usually 7 5/8, so it makes it even harder for me. 6 and 7/8 can usually be found too. But the most popular is 7, 7 1/8, 7 1/4. The older hats you can stretch but you'd be lucky to stretch a full size out of it. It's not so easy. Um, the newer hats put a piece of what looks like fishing line, a plastic fishing line, in the hat where the sweatband is inside, and you got to get like a hook-shaped knife or something, and you got to know where to look for it and find it, and then cut it and pull it out, and then you could stretch your hat. But they sell hat stretchers. People buy them, these wooden things. You crank them up and they stretch the hat. So they stretch their hat out a size to make it fit better, and that works for about 72, 96 hours. Then the plastic returns back to its original size and shrinks the hat back. So it's a hat maker's trick to keep the hats sized well. They don't stretch out of shape. If they get stretched out of shape, they could get floppy and stuff like that. But if you've got an already too tight hat, which could happen because you gained weight, it could happen because you're growing your hair long, okay? It could happen because it got a lot of moisture and shrank down a little bit because you didn't dry it right or whatever, or it's not a very good hat. So the only way you're going to ever get the stretch right is to cut that plastic filament in there. And 99% of the people, I guess, or 95% or 90%, whatever, that buy these hat stretchers have no idea that that's the case. The other thing you can do to get your hat bigger is take the sweatband out. That will probably get you at most a half a size maximum. And if you get the filament, the plastic filament out, then you can stretch the hat. Because the hat band is resistant to stretching. It's made out of some sort of processed leather in a good hat, or plastic in a not so good hat. And when you stretch the hat band doesn't stretch well. So what some people do is they just take the whole hat band out, which is better than having a tight hat, or they cut a piece of the hat band, like they cut a quarter of an inch sliver out of it, and that lets it stretch. Or they may cut a quarter of an inch out in 2 places or 3 places or something. You could stretch it that way and still have the benefit of the hat band for the sweat. So it's a whole science with hats, it's and it's sort of a lost art. I remember when I was a kid in college, I used to revere the Flourishine Imperial shoes. The Rowan was the big one. It was real popular, but they had others like the quarter of an loafer and stuff. And they made these shoes fantastic. They were superb. And of course it went away. But you bought a pair of these Flourishine Bromes, you would be able to wear them every day, probably for 2 years, and then take them to the shoemaker and change the heel, and then maybe a couple of years later change the sole. And I used to have, I think they were Flourishine, or I had another brand also like that. And I used to, in the snowy, cold, wet weather in New York, I used to shine them like 3 times with a paste shine, not the liquid, that don't do anything. 2 or 3 times with the paste, and it would give you a pretty decent degree of waterproofing. And it had storm welting at the seam there with the sole of the shoe, and they were leather lined, and leather sole, and they were great shoes. But they're gone, So there are other good shoes. I wear very large size, usually a 14E or a 15D, so regular shoes are hard to find. So I wear a lot of Crocs, which are easy to use and they're cheap and they're plastic. And I work around water a lot here. I'm hosing plants and filling water containers for the dogs, and they get wet. So it's usually they get wet every day. So it's a nice, and they got holes in them in the warm weather. So it washes the shoe out basically. And then every now and then it gets a good drenching, like last night it did. And it's like washing the shoe. Or if you want, you just take it into the sink of the shower and rinse them out inside, and you're all set. If you don't wash them out, then they start, that's not good for your feet. So. Anyway, I used to buy, I can't remember the name, Wright, WRIGHT, or Wright Brothers shoes. They made high sizes, and they made really good shoes that were not like the old Florsheim Imperial, but 75% of the way there. Then one day when I was in the world and I had a lot of money, I found a woman on eBay that bought a closeout of very expensive shoes from some company I never heard of, and they were made out of exotic leathers, antelope, and eel, and snake, or whatever, all kinds of things, right? And she had size 15, and she had a ton of them. So I bought all her size 15s. It came in a huge case. She gave me a great deal on it. And I used them for a long time, and I got rid of some of them, and then some of them, the heels started rotting, so I went and got a shoemaker when I was living in another country to change them and put the heels on. And I still have them, but I don't wear shoes much here. We don't have sidewalks. I like, shoes with a rough sole, so I buy Skechers, or I use running shoes, or I use Crocs, and stuff like that. So I don't wear suits, I don't wear ties, I'm very happy I don't, because I hate that stuff. So anyway, there's so much going on. We'll cover that and look at, there's something that I would say is a big, big Bible prophecy event in terms of reap what you sow, with the dividing, I'll cover that in a few minutes. Let's do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 There's no Messiah like Yeshua. There's no Messiah like Yeshua. Okay. Let me look at the chat, or the live stream, or whatever we want to call it. I always don't know what to call it. Call it the live stream. And let's see what's going on over there, and we'll get started. Let me do a little bit of housekeeping in the live stream and see if people come along and delete the live stream, the chat rather. All right. Almost done. Pin this. That worked. And let me get my email up in there for questions, or sometimes people want a prayer request, which I say use initials for your privacy, and they don't want to post it, which gives their screen name for YouTube. So what they could do is just email it in to me, giving me the initials of the person you want the prayer for, and then we'll have everybody pray about it. Usually get a couple hundred people praying, or at least 100. Now, if you really have a serious situation, I can put it up on Telegram also, or Twitter. Telegram has almost 400 people. Twitter has over 400. And this place usually winds up with about 400 to 600 views per video. So we will get quite a bit of spread. And it's all free, of course. It's just one of the important things we do here. You just give me the initials of the person you want to care for, and which could be you or somebody else, and give me the basic parameters of what you want the prayer to be. Like healing, needs a place to live, needs a job, car problems, cheap, effective repairs, house problems, cheap, effective repairs, whatever. Okay. So, as you know, Trump is in a tizzy of criminal cases. I think there's 2 sets of criminal cases in the federal court system, and New York City has a criminal case against him. So Trump said all his criminal cases would total 514 years in jail. Now, Fox News ran a video. Now, I can't play the video here because I think you're not supposed to do that, especially if you're going to play it for 3 or 4 minutes. So I put a link to the Fox video, which is on YouTube, on my Telegram, and it's a must-watch video. Okay, if you want my Telegram site, you want me to give you an invite for it, send me an email. The email's in the description box. It's highlighted in yellow. It's Israel Giving with the number 7. Israel Giving, one word, with the number 7 at gmail.com. Just put in the subject header Telegram. That's all you got to do. A Telegram link. You don't have to give me the, oh, I've been watching for you, blah, blah, blah. I don't. I'll give you the link right away. Just send it to me as soon as I see the email. I'll return it to you with the link, and you can join. Telegram Messenger. I think there's ways to watch it with your browser. Now, I think. But you definitely could download the app. It's in the big places to download apps again. So it's got 700 million people as of about 6 months ago. It's probably bigger. It's encrypted, so Google doesn't spider it and put it on the website. It's excellent. It's basically, you're reading what I put up, links to other sites, and my own commentaries. You're watching videos I put links up to, and I make a bunch of audio files, like podcast files, and I put them up there. And you listen to them. So it's updated about 5 times a day, and it has heavy emphasis on end times events. Okay? So I don't get into so-and-so singer fell down the steps and broke their ankle. Blah, blah, blah came out with a new movie. I don't do that stuff, I just get into real news, and a lot of my sources, a lot, are social media from other countries. China, I get the Arab countries, lots of that, okay? So when the wars are going and the turmoil and stuff, I'm putting a lot of social media things up there. Some I have to translate, and that gives you real good, up-to-date, very rapid news about what's really going on in these countries. Where when you wait for the big media channels, they get the news, then they want to verify it, then they go to the producer, the director, and they decide if they want it. And usually it's like the next day it comes up, or many hours later. But with the good social media, it comes up minutes later. A day later would be a really long time. So yesterday, Ukraine attacked a Russian naval base. Now you got to listen to the absurdity of this. I mean, it's real. It really happened. They used 2 naval drones. It scared the bejeebies off of the Russians, like scaring white off of rice. I mean, they shut the whole naval base down. I believe they destroyed the 2 naval drones. I don't think a lot of damage was done. The story is still getting leaked out or unraveled, and maybe they did make some destruction over there of substance. We don't know yet. I don't know yet anyway. But it scared the bejeebies out of the Russians. okay, to shut the base. Now, I don't think Russia ever yet declared war against Ukraine. And I don't really think there would be much of a difference if they did. They're calling it a police action. But I can tell you, when they started, a year and a half or so ago, a little more now, in their darkest dreams, they never imagined that Ukraine would take naval drones and attack their Navy base. They are in over their head. And they don't know what to do about it. They are in a bad way, okay? And they keep trying and they keep failing. And there's a big pivot point coming. And I think it could happen later this month or most definitely during September. And that's the delivery of fighter aircraft, F-16s, and others that are perhaps earlier, not as good, or almost as good as the F-16s. Probably better than the Russian stuff. And I've added this up, and it's going to be between 200 and 300 jets. And I think it's probably closer to 300, and that figure could even climb. That's a lot of jets. That's what Israel has. Now, Israel's jets are very sophisticated. But now, their pilots are being trained in other countries on how to use these jets. Now, and it's like about a month training, because they take a guy or a gal that can actually fly a fighter jet now of some sort, and then they bring him in and train him on the F-16 or whatever the jet is that they're giving them. It doesn't take 6 months. Then they need mechanics, and there's a lot of ways that could work. They could train the mechanics. They could train the mechanics in the other countries, send them back to Ukraine, ship over parts inventory with them, and send a few master mechanics from the home country over there to help them for the first few months figure out how to repair these planes when they come back from combat and wear and tear and things of this nature, right? This is a real game changer. The HIMARS missiles that America gave to Ukraine that allow about 60-mile shoots, maybe more, but I think it's 60-something mile shooting range, right, have been a real nightmare for Russia. A real nightmare. I mean, a major nightmare. Because it enables Ukraine to reach out way beyond the Russian lines and attack, not like artillery that's typically going to go 10 or 12 miles. You know, these things can go deep, and they go into Russia too, over the border into Russia. Not the occupied parts of Ukraine, Russia, Mother Russia. Now, Ukraine's been attacking Russian cities, Moscow, repeatedly with drones, suicide drones, flying them into buildings, a big apartment house that's a block or across the street, some distance like that, maybe 100 meters or something, you know, from the FSB building. The FSB building is like the FBI headquarters for Russia. So do you think they live in this fairly deluxe apartment building a block away? Yeah. So then they could just walk to work in the snow and the ice and all that stuff. So they probably do live there, and that building's been hit more than once with drones from Ukraine. Now, they've been deploying like 2,000 drones, the Shahid drone they get out of Iran. So Iran found American drones that got knocked down to the ground, and they've been copying them and stuff like that, and they've been innovating as best they can. And their drones work. And they've been blowing up residential structures and other things inside Ukraine. Russia has. Now, Ukraine blew up a very big ammo depot a few days ago, maybe 3, something like that, 4, something like that, in Russia, or Russia was using in Ukraine, I think. A massive ammo depot. That's a big setback for Russia. Russia learned a nasty lesson. Spread your ammo depots apart. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if that basket gets hit with a drone, you up the creek without a paddle. So Russia is trying and trying and trying to control the situation in Ukraine. I would think it's safe and accurate to now say Russia has lost control over the Ukraine fight. They no longer are controlling it. They're reacting to what Ukraine does. Can they still initiate military actions that make Ukraine react to them? Yes. But they do not have the control over that conflict. They don't. That's scary for Russia. And when the jets come in, it's going to be worse. Now, the NATO countries, including America, but not limited to America, that are giving the airplanes, the military fighter jets, to Ukraine, know that some of these planes are going to get taken down. They know that. They're not morons. But they also know that the amount of damage they're going to cause to Russia against, well, it could be against personnel, but what they're going to be targeting is things like bridges, highways, power generators, supply depots for missiles, for ammo, all that stuff, air bases, Navy bases, and aircraft. And yeah, they'll try to blow up tanks and, troops and stuff, but that's not their primary function. And it's going to create triple the problems that Russia has now in Ukraine. They're going to go up by about 300%. Nobody takes Russia's threats seriously anymore. They're saying, like the boy that cried wolf. Well, I wouldn't say that. That's not it. He just makes empty threats. He can't deliver on it. Does he know it? Yeah. Does he think he's going to deliver on those threats when he makes them? I doubt it. Nobody is fearing Russia that much anymore. What NATO seems to be doing is using Ukraine to weaken Russia as much as they can. And at some point, the expectation is Russia will attack NATO. They'll have to. Or, if they don't, what will happen is Ukraine will take back all their territory, and there's a concept that Israel's used and other countries have used, the buffer zone. And they may grab a piece of land 25 miles deep in Russia and occupy it. They may try that. Now, NATO will probably tell them, if you do that, you can't get into NATO, so they'll drop it, but they may temporarily do it. Then the Russian people are going to sit there and say, Putin's been lying to us, telling us about hypersonic missiles that can't be stopped, and hypersonic torpedoes that cavitate the water in front of the torpedo with a water bubble. The concept of that is scientifically not real. I don't believe. How can you do that? You push a water bubble in front of the submarine, and they have the torpedo. And they've never used any of that in combat that I'm aware of. I don't know how it could work. To me, I think it's scientifically not valid, but certainly the NATO allies are not fearful of any hypersonic missiles and hypersonic torpedoes or hypersonic anti-missile missiles. Nor are they fearful of any nukes. If they were, look at the behavior of NATO. It would not be as it is. NATO is not scared of Russia at all. They're preparing for Russia. Russia has a large army. Russia could muster up a lot of artillery, a lot of tanks, a lot of aircraft, stuff like that. So they have to be prepared. And then you have 5,000 Wagner mercenaries in Belarus. And the media is saying that's to be for an invasion of Poland. How absurd. Then we find postings later, a day or so later, that say that the Belarus troops are on the border with Poland, but they're digging in and for making fortifications. So what is a fortification? Well, in any event, it has to be a stronghold against missiles and artillery. So Russia built these, and they made them 6-8 feet thick with heavy concrete, with rebar, and inside them they put them like half in the ground, and then inside them they put an artillery piece with the barrel sticking out, and they had a few rooms in this thing, all very heavily protected. So they kept a very large supply of artillery shells, maybe 200 or something. And they would usually put 1 or 2 machine guns in there, which they probably had thousands and thousands of rounds and ammo in there. They were belt fed on a bipod or a tripod, and they had a window so they could cover a landing beach, usually from a ridge or a little mountaintop, so they had elevation. And they could use the artillery to spray, to attack the landing craft as they approached the beach and on the beach, and then they would start machine gunning them. Very dangerous for invaders. And I would think this is basically what Belarus is doing, using Wagner for that. That's all. To seriously attack Poland, 50,000 soldiers would be very small. If you saw Wagner accumulate 100,000 soldiers on the border, well, that sounds like an invasion. 50,000, I could believe, is an invasion. 5,000 is defensive, not offensive. Okay? So, what's going on in America is amazingly shocking. Trump is getting a lot of play from the media, particularly Fox. They did a poll before this latest criminal indictment, and Trump came in as having 53% of the vote, and the other 47% were divided around, 5 or 6 different entities. Ron DeSantis had a miserably small amount. Nobody really knows who DeSantis is. The Floridians do, but people in other parts of the country don't really know him from a hole in the wall. They know Biden. So the big election shootout or battle is going to be Trump versus Biden, unless the Democrats produce another person. Now, if they produced Obama, Obama would probably beat Trump, I think, or it'd be neck and neck. But the problem with Obama is he's been president twice, so they'd have to get Congress to change the law, which would require, I think, a 75% vote in favor of doing it, and I don't think they could get that. So things are weird. In America. So you're getting a division here. And Trump is sowing seeds of division big time. This video has a announcer being interviewed by Fox, and she's saying, well, Biden had this negative event, the next day Trump got this indictment, then Biden had this negative event, and Trump got this indictment. You could listen to it, it's on Telegram. And it's Fox News, which is considered one of the big boys like, CNN, ABC, or whatever, right, CBS. It's considered a valid mainstream source, and they're obviously leaning towards Trump. And these accusations are probably very accurate, and Fox wouldn't be displaying them or broadcasting them broadly. So Trump has got legal teams that are probably more effective than the Justice Department, and they certainly have as many resources, if not more, than the Justice Department. Many judges Trump has appointed. Now you got to remember, the judges are not the ones that initiated these cases. The way you look at a court, a friend of mine who's deceased was a lawyer and explained this to me. The judge is supposedly an impartial party. They sit there and they rule, okay? The prosecutor is basically a client of the court, of the judge. He makes work for the judge. He decides that people committed a crime and goes after them. Criminal law and civil law are not that far apart. The way you would look at criminal law is it's like a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, except the punishment is usually going to jail, although it could be probation, and it could be go to jail and pay a fine and lose assets and stuff like that. Okay? So the judge, his court stays busy when the prosecutors prosecute. Now, when you're dealing with the civil court, the judge's clients are all the lawyers, because any lawyer can initiate a civil case where the penalty is generally economic, or it could be custody or something like that for child family law or whatever. So, I'm thinking. So the judges are not necessarily going to drop on Trump just because the case is there. They may support Trump. We don't know. I'm suspicious in New York City courts, but maybe not. I don't know. So I think that these prosecutors that have filed on Trump should be smart enough to realize that if Trump gets out from under this and gets to be president again, there's definitely a distinct possibility they have to consider Trump going after them and getting revenge or neutralizing them so they don't continue doing this stuff during his presidency, which they might try. So now the big rumors on the television and in the media is that this has opened up a door for Trump, because they're accusing him about election fraud or fixing elections or attempting to, or things like this, which now gives Trump subpoena power of the court to request records and information from people that they must comply with. And he could also take testimony of people that have information regarding this, using the subpoena power of the court to take their depositions, subpoena their records, and so forth, interrogatories. So now Trump is believing he has a chance to run amok and make his case regarding problems with the 2020 elections. That's what the news is saying. And Trump will probably try to do this. Will he prevail? I don't know. I don't know what the judges will do. They may think that it's highly relevant that he has this subpoena power and let him have it and run with it. Or they might say it's an abusive process and he can't. I don't know how they could possibly do that, though. But I'm no legal beagle. I'm not a lawyer. I don't give legal advice. This is not legal advice. I'm just telling you as a layperson what I see, the view from here. So this is a big problem for the United States, and it could be dividing the United States. Trump, 53% of the vote, way the heck more than the polls were showing Biden coming in at. Way the heck more. They weren't giving Biden that kind of popularity in the polls. Okay. So Trump is really kind of ahead of Biden. Are there any lawyers in heaven? Are you talking about that joke about heaven? Okay, I'll tell you the heaven joke. It's not necessarily it's completely fictitious. Nothing has relevance to reality, but it's a cute joke. Okay. The lawyers die, they go to hell, and they're in hell and they start organizing and they start building parks and beaches and high-rise buildings with beautiful views and balconies and yachts, and they're rebuilding, heaven, and God tells them to stop, and they say, well, why should we stop? And God says, well, if you don't stop, I'll take you to court and force you to stop. And then the lawyers turn around to God and they say, yeah, where are you going to get any lawyers? It's not that great, but it means there's no lawyers in heaven. I don't know how good it is. Anyway, I don't tell that joke very well. Okay. When I got my MBA, I wanted to go on to law school. The Lord had other plans. He shut that door. The MBA thing I got through nicely. I was thinking, I was having some trouble because they had lousy teachers, like production management, teaching you how to run factories, and the teacher was completely horrible. So towards the end of the class, I went to him and I said, how am I doing? I'm going to be graduating, and blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, you're okay. Then I had another course that was tax law. And they read the whole tax code in the regs, which is about this high in books with small print and thin paper. It was huge. And I learned a lot from that. And I said to him, well, I also said to him, I'm getting ready to graduate, how am I doing, And he said, well, sometimes you didn't know the answer and this and that, but he looked at me and said, you're okay, Other courses I did really well in. The teachers were, I learned a ton in that tax course, but I don't know, maybe I wasn't as good as others. There were a lot of people in there that were studying accounting to become CPAs, and they knew more than I did, of course. And not all CPAs are tax specialists, but they all know a lot about tax. Back then, the taxes were very easy to keep people out of paying taxes, so I wanted to go on and become a tax lawyer. So then I didn't want that. And I can see many years later why. I could have done quite well becoming a tax lawyer. I had a law enforcement background, limited, but I had it. I could have probably been a really good criminal lawyer, because I would have went into the game knowing really how the cops operate and what they do and all their shadowy practices. I probably would have been a star. I would have started out dealing with poor indigent people, getting $50 for a court appearance and this and that, and I would have made a reputation. And then some big firm would have picked me up for a massive amount of money, and I would have been living in a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot apartment overlooking the bay, 40 stories high, or something like that. I made my money, but self-employment. The law firm, you see, the thing contradicts the Bible. Because you have an obligation to get your client off the hook, the criminal hook, using any means at your disposal, without breaking the law. But the law allows you to go pretty far, And a lot of lawyers know their client is guilty and they still get him off. So it's a problem, It's a problem. And it's a problem with, let's say, being a tax attorney, because these tax attorneys know that their clients are cheating and deceiving and lying, and they help them do that. That's the game, You know, like you take Elvis, Sammy Davis Jr., people like that, they get rings with, you know, 12 carat diamonds that are flawless and, you know, stuff like that. And they put the ring on. You know, Elvis used to wear multiple, and so did Sammy Davis. And they put all these rings on, and they would wave them around on the stage and have motion picture, well, video footage of them performing with these things on the stage. So they now become relegated to props, like getting yourself a suit with you know, sequins and shiny stuff and made out of silk, and you know that you spend $4,000 or $5,000 on, and you know that's a prop. You're not going to wear that going shopping. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot, you know. So it's a tax write-off as business equipment. You understand? So these suits they buy is a tax write-off. Now, when you're dealing with more conventional people, like let's say an old star like Alan, a comedian, what was his name? Can't remember. Or George Burns, a comedian, he would wear a very fine, expensive men's suit on TV shows, where he was a guest of his own show, and that is a prop. There's no limit if you want to spend $97,000 on a dress or a men's suit to wear it for 1 or 2 minutes on your TV show. You can, and that's a tax deduction. Now, does that mean that they're not supposed to wear that suit in the regular social life? Yes, it does, because if they do, then you have to keep a logbook for the suit. Okay, and you say, I wore this to 3 different parties and 1 TV show. So they might say, okay, it had 4 wearings. So you get to deduct the TV show wearing 25%. The 75% you don't deduct. So they just instead turn around and say, no, this is just for the TV show. So after the TV show, do they give the suit to Goodwill? No. Do they keep it? Yeah. Do they wear it at parties? Yeah. Could the IRS run around and photograph them at a party wearing the suit or something like that? And yeah, I suppose so. But that's usually not done. Okay, how are they going to get into the party? And how do they know when he's going to wear the suit? And, you know, anything like this, right? So it's the same thing with the jewelry. He buys a $197,000 ring, and they tell the IRS, well, this is to impress the audience of my stardom and how rich I am because I'm such a popular star, which is valid. And it helps my performance because a lot of the people want to see the jewelry and they get the oohs and the ahs. And it helps me in a lot of ways like this. Do you wear this when you're not on stage? No. Then can they wear it at a party in their house? Sure, who's going to know? They'll just say the party they wore it to was part of their promotion. They had to go to this party in someone else's house, which is a mansion or a TV producer to a party with 300 people, and they got invited. So they say the same thing. I'm wearing the ring there to promote myself. It's a prop, like wearing a suit. It doesn't matter if you're not on TV. If you're going to an event that's not visiting your family or your friends, is for business reasons, promoting yourself, well, then you can deduct it. See how it works? So in most cases, when they're wearing the jewelry, they get caught, they just say it's for business purposes. And these are the kind of things I learned. Now, cars, you can play the same game with the cars, okay? Well, let's say, how would you play it with a car? Let's say you're an Elvis Presley kind of person, right? You go out and you buy a Ferrari. Well, okay, you wanted a set of wheels, you bought the set of wheels, it's not tax deductible. But no, I bought this car so when I go to public events, when I pull up in front of the hotel where I'm performing, or I use it in my movie, it's a business expense, it's a prop. But it's $600,000. Well, it's a $600,000 prop. It's the economy of scale. The movie's going to make $92 million, $600,000 is worth it. What do you do with the Ferrari after the movie? That's dicey. See, how do they justify just keeping a $600,000 prop? It doesn't make sense, does it? You know, when they do a TV series and they use a car like this on a prop, and the series runs, let's say, 6 years, 6 seasons, 6 years, they can keep the Ferrari the whole 6 seasons. Can they use the Ferrari when it's not being filmed? Well, they're not supposed to, and a lot of people would know that we're using it, but they could. But what do they usually do that most people don't know about? After the end of their need for this Ferrari, now, they don't have to keep it all 6 seasons. They use it in 1 season, and they say, well, now it's a year-old Ferrari. It doesn't look good. It's not right for us to promote that. Our character buys a Ferrari every year, so we sell the Ferrari. So the producer sells it to himself, and maybe at half price. And then people run around and they say, is that, you know, if the IRS wants to challenge them, they'll get a hold of people in the industry of the cars and say, is that about right? Selling for half price. And the people say, well, I don't know, you know, they'll say yes or no, you know, so, but do they get away with it? Apparently they do. Maybe they don't do it anymore like that, but apparently they do. Could they find a way to use the Ferrari while they're filming it? Yeah, and then it's a question of what did they use it for? Were they using it to promote the movie or the TV series, like they went out with the Ferrari to impress an investor or to sign up an actor or something like that? Well, that could be kosher because it's being used in the course of the business. See, these are the things you learn, but they're not, let's say, kosher. It's things you can get away with, all right? And that's what I was learning in the tax course, is how to get away with it. Now, the people that go to the IRS tax course when they work for the IRS, they get taught the same regs and code from the point of view of how to not let people get away with it. So it's a battle of war, and a lot of times it goes to court. And because you're dealing with multimillionaires, and it winds up in court, and you have you could have a non-IRS judge ruling on the case, and he's going to not see things from the way the IRS does. Or you could have an IRS person judging it. It's just a cat and mouse game, and I don't know what kind of business it is today, because the tax code has been, the deductions have been taken away in the 80s and forward. There's not much left. Now, there's, for big corporate people, there are a lot of tax loopholes, and that's where the tax lawyers are working. When the guy just says, okay, you know, I'm just Jeff Bezos or someone like that, and he's taking out a salary of, you know, $20 million a year or $30 million a year, or 50 or whatever, it's income. Income is income. He's going to have to pay something. He can do deductions, but yeah, it's going to have to pay taxes. Maybe he's going to pay as little as 6% or 12%, but he's still paying taxes. Got to pay some. So a lot of them restrict the amount of money that they take out. But I mean, this guy's got a bunch of yachts. He probably has in excess of $1 billion worth of yachts, probably $2 billion. So can he have the company own the yachts, and he's on the yachts 80, 90 days a year? I don't know how you work that out. That'd be pretty difficult, unless all the time he was on his huge yacht with 12 staterooms and a crew of 45 people. That's half the size of a cruise ship, but not as high, not as many decks. He has people on there that he's entertaining for business. So whenever he goes on the yacht, he invites somebody that either he already does business with, or he intends to do business with. And he keeps a simple logbook. Well, his accountant does. And now he's not just sailing around on his yacht. He's engaging in business. He's trying to get these people to do business with him, or to do more business with him, or different business with him. See how it works? So why does Jeff got to go on it by himself? Just keep inviting people to go sail around with him, to get on the boat for a week or two. And all you need is one guy over there, and then rotate the thing. What about putting a political figure on there? Well, yeah, I put him on there because I was trying to persuade him why we need a certain law passed. Is that legal? Can he do that? Probably. Could he put a competitor on there? Yeah, because they could talk about merging and working together, not price fixing, because that's illegal. What about if this person has an amorous companion that they're dating? Could they put them on there with them? Yeah, but they still need to have a business motivation for it. So what about when the yacht sits empty? Well, as long as he doesn't go out and use the yacht just for personal relaxation, all the expenses of mooring the boat, the salaries and expenses for the crew, the food, the champagnes, the caviar, the depreciation of the boat, all of this, the mooring fees, everything is deductible. The guy just has to make sure he doesn't go take 2-week trips on the boat without having a viable business person there with a very good explanation as to why he wanted this person there. And he has to sit down with this person and discuss something to do with the business at least once or twice during his 2-week cruise. So this guy's friends are all in business like him. So he just invites his friends and calls it a business acquaintance or contact or connection, and now he's writing off all the expenses of his, $900 million boat. Is this legal? Yes. If you want to take a business associate out to dinner, and the dinner costs $7,400, and you got a receipt from the restaurant, and you bought caviar at the table for $11,000, and you bought 2 bottles of wine that was $6,000 each and stuff like that, you got a receipt for it and you paid for it. It's a valid deduction. It doesn't matter if your business lunch or dinner or breakfast was at a restaurant where the bill was $39, or if it was at a restaurant where the bill was $29,000. It's still all deductible as business entertainment. They could challenge you, and what was the purpose of this business trip, and they make sure their accountants and tax lawyers do that for them and write it down, and they know that it's going to hold up. See, that's America. Okay? So, has America been trying to divide Israel? Oh, I think for ages. Have they divided Israel? Well, they pushed Israel around, I would say, to give the Sinai Peninsula back, which had oil wells that were producing oil for Israel, that we took in the '67 war. I think Carter did that one with Anwar Sadat, which got Anwar Sadat assassinated subsequently later. People say it was related to that. It probably was, but that's an opinion. Nobody can concretely know, but it looks like it was. Anwar Sadat went to the meetings with Jimmy Swaggart wearing a tie with swastikas on it, by the way. So how really dedicated to this peace thing was Anwar Sadat. And then they pushed hard against Israel to give Gaza back, which was 2006 or 8, something like that, which Israel did. And it was a horrible thing. And look what it turned into. It made Gaza a military base for Muslim terrorists to attack Israel from right on their border. And it's been a source of draining the billions of dollars of Israel's money and a lot of aggravation. And they still keep doing it. They don't stop. The latest thing they want Israel to do is go back to the 67 borders, give the West Bank to the Arab, Muslims, whatever you want to call them, Palestinians, and pull out of there, pull all the settlements out of there. And all that would happen is it would turn into another Gaza with military bases. That would be worse, because the West Bank has a border with Jordan, and all the weapons and everything would come in from Jordan. They would build an air base. They would put an airstrip in there. They would have planes. They would get fighter jets. They would have tanks. It would be horrible. Let alone shooting missiles. That would be minor what they would do. So there's a concerted push. The Biden administration wants this to happen. Okay? And that's dividing Israel. And it would narrow Israel to something like 14 miles at its narrowest point, so the enemies could do a pincher move and attack that and cut us off into two pieces. So they have divided Israel. Now, have they further divided Israel that nobody talks about, including the churches? Yes. Can I show you that in the scriptures? Yes. Will I? Absolutely. Right now, let me look at the chat. I got the chat covered. Okay. We go to Genesis 15. What's the verse? That's a good question. 17? Let's see if that's it. I missed it. It's verse 18. Genesis 15:18. Well, I'm old. I can miss by verse here and there. In the same day, Jehovah made a covenant with Abram. Now, that's the Hebrew word is a brit. It's Strong's number 1285. It's a brit. The New Testament is called the Brit Hadashah by the church people in the Messianic congregations, which are just Jewish churches. It means the new covenant. That's what the New Testament is called. It's not really Testament, it's a new covenant. Whether or not that's accurate or not, I'm not going to get into it. Of course, it has a certain degree of accuracy, but it's overstated by the church. So, made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land. Now, the New Testament, I believe Romans, Peter tells us, I think it's Romans, maybe I'm wrong on that, maybe it's Acts, but whatever, it says that the covenant was made to Abraham and his seed, not seeds of many, seed of one, and that seed is Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, so the covenant applies to Yeshua and all those in Yeshua. Okay, which are the believers. Now, you can't be a believer in Yeshua HaMashiach and not be part of true Israel. It's ridiculous. It's a joke to make that argument. Let me explain. Yeshua is the King of Israel. Nobody's going to challenge that. Yeshua is the high priest in the order of Melchizedek. No one's going to challenge that. Does the church have a order of Melchizedek? Of course not. The Mormons do, but I mean, they don't have it. I mean, they say they do. They also say they have 12 apostles, but New Jerusalem, the foundations are named after the apostles, the 12, not the ones the Mormons have in Salt Lake City. Okay, so moving along. Yeshua is a Jew from the tribe of Judah, from the line of Jesse, David's line. And Yeshua refers to the believers as his brethren, brothers. So how are you going to be a brother of Yeshua and be in Yeshua, and Yeshua knows you, and you're not part of Israel? It's absurd. Of course you're part of Israel. Does God actually show us this in action? Yes. If we go to Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses, this is when they're dividing Greater Israel up. And I'll explain Greater Israel to you back in Genesis 15 in a minute. Dividing up Greater Israel to the believers. So this is how it reads. And this is in your Bible. It's always been there. I didn't come down your chimney last night and change it, okay? Ezekiel 47, verse 21. So shall you, it says ye, but I'll say you. So shall you divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Israel. Okay. Next verse, 22. And it shall come to pass that you shall divide it by lot. So they'll cast lots to see who gets what parcel. For an inheritance unto you. So that's year of redemption when our inheritance is redeemed, which is Greater Israel and the smaller Israel land as well, unto you. And to the strangers that sojourn among you. So it's talking about the non-Israelite born that traveled to Israel with the Israelites in the second Exodus. You could read about the second Exodus in detail in Ezekiel chapter 20, starting in verse 33. And to the strangers that sojourn among you, which shall beget children among you, and they shall be unto you as born in the country, meaning Israel, among the children of Israel, they shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. And it shall come to pass that in what tribe the stranger sojourneth, travels over, there shall you give him his inheritance, saith Adonai Jehovah. God says in his written word that has to come to pass that these strangers that are believers that travel over to Israel, they of course are believers, or why did they do it, with the tribes, become incorporated to the tribe that they traveled over with, and they become as native born in that tribe, and they receive a piece of land relevant to what the people in that tribe would get. And they're permanently, them and their children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so forth, are in that tribe forever. Okay? Now you're going to start thinking, why didn't I learn this in the church? Well, that's because the church is defective. So, can I give this to you in another place? Yes. Revelation 21. Now, I don't know the right verse, so I gotta look through the verse. Revelation 21, verse 12, and had a wall, this is speaking of New Jerusalem, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gate 12 angels. So there was obviously an angel at each gate guarding it. Well, what was the angel doing there? Singing songs? 12 angels, and names written thereon, meaning the gates, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. New Jerusalem has 12 gates. Each gate is made out of a giant pearl and has an angel guarding it. I would assume the guarding it is why the angel is there. And it's named after one of the tribes of Israel, and you would go into New Jerusalem through the gate of your tribe. And the non-Israelite born are incorporated into the tribe they sojourn over here with, so they go in that gate, so they have the right to go in. There's no Baptist gate, no Lutheran gate, no Presbyterian, Episcopalian, nominal Christian gate, Pentecostal gate, Evangelical gate, Catholic gate, none of that. It's only tribes of Israel. So I'm giving you this on a silver platter. You're going to accept it or reject it. Now, when the next temple gets built, which is not New Jerusalem, when it comes down from heaven is in reality how it comes. there'll be a fence built around it with 12 gates, and the same thing's going to go on with the gates, so you're not going to get into the next temple unless you're part of Israel. But the believers are part of Israel. So now we go back to Genesis 15. I think it was verse 7. Okay, so he's saying, in the same day, Jehovah made a covenant, a brit, with Abram, saying, unto thy seed I have given this land, from the river of Egypt, that's the Nile, to the great river, the river Euphrates. And then he lists the different people that are in there, like he talks about the Hittites, which are up in Turkey and stuff like that. So what is this greater Israel? It goes from the Euphrates River across the Mediterranean, stated elsewhere as our border, to the Nile River, and I believe the other border on the east or the right-hand side would be the Persian Gulf. So what does this include? It includes Turkey, Iraq, and Syria to the left and the west of the Euphrates River. Huge piece of land. It includes all of Lebanon. It includes all of Jordan, which is Ammon, Edom, and Moab. It includes all of Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and over across the Red Sea in Africa. It includes to the right or the east of the Nile River parts of Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Eritrea, I think all of it, Somalia, all of it, Ethiopia, I think most or all of it, Djibouti, all of it, and parts of Kenya and Uganda. When you put all this together, it's about 100 times bigger than Israel. So, has this land been divided already? The land that Jehovah gave to Israel? Well, when you consider all these countries living in land that God made a covenant to give to Israel, one could certainly argue that the land's already been divided, can't they? Yes. It'd be a good argument. But giving back the Sinai Peninsula was definitely dividing it. Giving back Gaza, definitely dividing it. The nations learned that when they tried to steal our land and take it back from us, it didn't work. They lost the wars and we would get more land. So what they did is they started learning to pressure Israel to give their own land back with lousy politicians that are serving the gods of the dead and stuff like that. So that's how they got the Sinai Peninsula, and that's how they got Gaza, and now they're trying to get the West Bank that way. And the United States is becoming divided itself. This thing with Trump can potentially explode. The left-wingers don't want Trump. The Trumpites, the Trump backers don't want any left-wing person. And you could seriously have a division. People could get very infuriated about what's happening to Trump. Very infuriated. And Trump has got no problems promoting such infuriation. It could lead to civil war, massive disturbances and protests and riots and stuff like that. It could get very tragic. It's not getting better. All these charges against Trump, and the people on Fox News are saying that, you know, on this date, this bad stuff happened to Biden. The next day, Trump got these criminal charges, and they're showing a pattern on Fox News. It's on YouTube. So this is really a mess for the United States. Hunter Biden has got problems. I don't follow it very closely, but He's got problems, and the people of the United States are rather well aware of these problems. Biden is accused repeatedly by many media stations of having dementia, senility, and things like that. There's a lot of videos on YouTube accusing him of this that show excerpts where he's on a stage and he's getting turned around, not knowing where to go, and he's reading teleprompters wrong, and he's saying things that don't make sense. And, there's lots of examples of it. So, the Democrats' best shot against Trump would be Biden, who was a two-term VP with Obama, and he previously was a senator, and then he ran for president with Kamala Harris, and shockingly to me, they won. They were not, I don't think, they won. I didn't think they were going to win. I thought, my personal opinion was, I thought Trump would win, but things happened, and, now Trump's facing criminal charges regarding some of these things, and we've got to watch and see how this unravels. I'm not saying Trump is a great guy for the presidency. I wouldn't say that. I don't think he's that great. But I'd say he's, in my opinion, a lot better than Obama. And then Biden, who is basically mimicking Obama to some extent. Biden is messing up world affairs big time. And you look at, the potential for wars to break out, not little wars like Ukraine and Russia, which isn't so little anymore. But I mean, China versus Taiwan and Japan, and North Korea versus South Korea, and NATO versus Russia. And now there's trouble in the African states. And let's take a look at BRICS. What's going on with BRICS? I believe it's August 22nd to the 24th, so it's not really far off in the distance. You're going to see a BRICS meeting, and it's going to be very interesting. Now, you need to understand that right now it appears that the US dollar accounts for 59% of all foreign exchange reserves. Now, they want to take that away. Since 2002, they went down 12%. So they were at probably 71%, 59 plus 12%. Now, the meeting of the BRICS is now, there's 40 or 50 or 60, depending who you want to read or you want to listen to, countries that say they want to join BRICS. Are they all going to get in? Well, the reality of this, I believe, is that 13 countries have actually officially submitted their applications. Okay, just 13. There's a lot more countries expressing interest to do this, but have they actually filled out all the application forms and stuff? Well, no, 13 have. These 13 that have officially applied to the BRICS alliance are as follows. The UAE, significant because they sell a lot of oil, and assumptively they'd be using the gold-backed trading currency that BRIC plans to introduce during this meeting of August 22nd and 24th. Saudi Arabia, again, a massive oil seller, and they could be taking sales in terms of this gold-backed currency too. Bangladesh, well, so Bangladesh is not a big event. Venezuela, they sell oil, and it's interesting. Argentina, they got a reasonably decent economy. Indonesia, big country. Ethiopia, not much of anything going on over there. Bahrain, oil seller. Mexico, they got oil, they got a big economy. Nigeria, oy vey, good luck with that one, guys, but they sell a lot of oil. Algeria, there's some oil going on there, I suppose. Egypt sells a lot of oil, and Iran does a lot with weapons and oil. So there's a lot of oil sellers that are going to want to be paid. They're going to want to be paid in this gold-backed currency. Now, Putin's also planning on having something to replace the SWIFT wire transfer system with fiber optic cables in place during this August meeting, I believe. Is this going to hurt the U.S. currencies? The U.S. currency is one currency, it's not multiple currency. Will it have an effect on that? Well, it's bound to. I don't know how it could not have an effect on that. Okay. Let's see what the U.S. dollar is doing today against the small amount of currencies. It keeps climbing more and more on the shekel. The shekel was 3.7, now it's 3.69, now 3.68. Well, the shekel keeps coming up against the dollar. The dollar is slipping against the shekel. That's what I meant. Okay, very slightly, very, very slightly. Against the euro, what's up with the dollar? The euro buys $1.09, $1.09. It's dropped a little bit. It was up to $1.11. Okay, let's check against the British pound. The pound's usually strong these days. Yeah, it's dropped a little, but it buy one British pound buys $1.27. So the pound is quite high right now, and the dollar's not doing well. Against Canadian, we have. No, I didn't get this to go through. Okay, let's do it again. The Canadian dollar slipped slightly from 75 cents to 74 cents. That's not a large amount of money. And let's hit it against the Aussie dollar. No, the dollar buys the Aussie dollar is worth 65 cents. So, Okay, so the world is building up for war. I don't see anybody advocating de-escalation in the Pacific or in Europe or really in the Middle East. There's not much going on for de-escalation that I'm aware of or anything. Um, Israel fighting against Hezbollah, it could happen, I don't know. Gaza's pretty quiet. Terrorism inside Israel is an everyday event. This administration is not getting over on the terrorism at all. They keep doing raids in the West Bank and arresting them, and it keeps happening. Sadly, Israelis get hurt and killed. It's tragic. From speaking to people I know and my own experiences, tourism in Israel is down. We're promoting the guest house and we're not getting any inquiries, which is crazy, okay? And we know people that used to get a lot of traffic with the guest house like we did, and then one person told us they got, since January 1st, they got 2 guests for a few days each. That was it. So can we make an argument that the tourists are just now staying in the hotels because the COVID is over now? It's not a valid argument. I thought about this. My wife thought this is what the case was, but no. The hotels are not cheap. The hotel rooms in Israel are tiny. Tiny. I mean really small. You get off your bed and you got this much room between your bed and the wall. It's reminiscent of a small cruise ship cabin. Not nice. They have balconies that are tiny. You can't even sit on a chair on them mostly. And then what do to get their star rating up? They put a flat screen TV in the room. They give you a refrigerator where you could buy a little jar of macadamia nuts for $250, $15, $20, sodas for $7, $8, shots of liquor for an exaggerated amount of money. They have a phone on the side of the bed. They'll give you another phone in the bathroom, so when you're in the bathroom, you can answer the phone. Whoopie-doo. They'll have a nice closet. They'll have, towels, bathrobes. Most of them, a lot of them have windows that don't open or they just crack, and, stuff like this. A lot of them will have a swimming pool and a gym. The gym is going to be very unimpressive, and the swimming pool will be nice. And they'll have 1 or 2 restaurants, and they might have room service and stuff like that. Okay? And they're expensive. They're not cheap. You're going to have trouble getting anything less than $165 a day, and you're going to have, you'll be able to stick 2 adults in there. You'll have a king or a queen bed. But if you got kids, good luck with that. I don't know how you're going to work that out. They usually don't have the floor space to put a crib or cots. So I don't think the theory that the tourists are going to the hotels, not the guest houses, holds water. I don't think so, because the guest house is usually more desirable. You got a lot more privacy than you do in a hotel. Better facility and stuff like that. I can't swallow that. Now I don't go traipsing around Israel looking at gee, do I see a lot of tour buses or not? Let me see if we could find any statistics, and I don't know if we can trust the statistics. It depends on what the source is, of course. Let's see what we can get. Because they might be telling us that it's not down. Let me see if we can find something. Okay, there's a reasonably decent source called Globes, and they say that tourism to Israel remains 13% below pre-COVID levels. That doesn't tell me a lot other than it's below. Let's see if we get anything. We got July arrivals here. July arrivals of tourism decreased to 322.90 thousand in June from 376,000 in May. So I'm pretty accurate here. It's going down. It's this tourism, the rockets from Gaza, the civil war, the dividing, the protests, all this stuff is going is hurting it. I don't know what this means. They're giving me percentages, but I don't know what it's a percentage of. I'm reading, this is all 2023. The month of May, the actual was 51%, the previous was 69%. And then it goes to June, where the actual was 32%, which is substantially lower, and the previous was 51%. Let's see what we can find here. I don't know what I'm looking at there. They're saying Israel's inflation rate is at a 13-month low of 4.2%. I don't know. Let me see if I can find something else for you. I'm not going to go to the Ministry of Tourism, I don't think. I'm going to get a good shake there. See, we just started promoting our guest house again, but this friend of ours has been promoting it all along, and this year is falling. It's just not worth doing it. Now, we don't have any COVID restrictions here of any sort. You can go anywhere without a face mask, and there's nothing going on here with COVID, so that's not stopping anything. I could see what the COVID cases are in Israel. Let's see. Daily COVID cases in Israel. They usually refer to it as corona here in Israel, but let's see. If I can get any counts. But I don't think COVID has anything to do with anything on the tourism here. Where are we? Daily new cases. Next to nothing here. I mean, it's very, very low. No, there's not much going on in Israel with COVID right now. No, that's not it. It's not it. It's the recent missile attacks from Gaza. It's the threats from Hezbollah. It's sort of the threats going on in Syria with Russia there and Hezbollah. And it's also the everyday terrorism in Israel and the division in the government with talks of civil war and stuff like that. Is there a chance America goes into civil war over this thing with Trump? Yeah, I don't know how realistic it is. There's a possibility for sure. But I don't know where it's going. We've got to watch these trials. It appears to me that Trump is going to fight tooth and nail to have all of these criminal cases pushed off till after the election. And do I think he'll prevail? I do, because I think he has the right to go to the Supreme Court, and I think they will rule in his favor. And now he has a chance to run for president. And what if he gets elected and then has to deal with his criminal cases? It'll be like what's going on in Israel. There's great parallelisms here between Trump and Netanyahu. They're both in criminal cases. Trump has 3, Netanyahu has 3. Go figure. Trump's in favor of dividing Israel, giving the West Bank back, going back to pre-67 borders, which is a joke to the Israelis. We know it'll never work. That's how we believe. So America could wind up being divided here. They are divided. You're going to see more and more the Biden camp and the Trump camp as the election narrows. I don't think their efforts to keep Trump out of the election race are going to work. I mean, if they did, then you might see DeSantis or somebody on the Republican side versus Biden, and Biden would mop them up. But Trump will mop up Biden. The only candidate that might maybe make it against Trump has already been president twice, and he's not a candidate. And he'd have to get Congress to say he can have a 3rd term, and I don't think Congress would give him that, and that would be Obama. So I don't see Obama entering into the picture at all. Could Obama run as a vice president on a ticket with Biden? Yeah, sort of, kind of, but the argument would be if Biden died or got killed or something, or got incapacitated, then the vice president would take over, and that would be having Obama have a 3rd term. So I think there would be a massive push to disqualify him. So the only way they could do it is if the Congress said so, and I don't think the Congress is stacked enough in the Democrats' favor to get anything like that passed. So Obama's not really an issue. Kamala Harris running without Biden, I don't think we'll see that. I think if the Democrats had somebody else they were going to pull out of their pocket, we would have heard about it already. I don't think there is anybody else as Biden. But I don't know how Biden is going to handle debates with Trump, or they won't do debates. I don't know how they think Biden could take out Trump. In a straight-up fight, I think Trump would win. I'm not high on Trump. I mean, he never got rid of Obamacare. He wants Israel to be divided. I mean, he's not anybody that I think is going to be doing much good. He played more golf than any other president ever did, by far. Now, the way a guy like Trump thinks is, my job is to find the right people for the right job, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Housing, and so forth. So he went out and found who he thought were the best people and put them in these positions. And then he said, well, I've worked with business people that are this way. That's my job, is to find the right people. And then he just goes around, entertaining people and schmoozing around and having a good time and playing golf. And, do I think he was playing golf with business contacts on the golf course? Sure he was, lots of times. That's how he does things, but still he was playing golf. Anyway, and he was trying to work in Mar-a-Lago, not work in the White House. Apparently his Mar-a-Lago is a lot more luxurious than the White House. I think it's bigger and probably got a lot more luxury features, although to most of us the White House would be extremely luxurious. But he didn't like the loss of privacy in the White House with the Secret Service running around, and I don't know. Maybe he had the same problem in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. Guys, I really don't know. Maybe he didn't like the climate there, or who knows. But he used to like Mar-a-Lago a lot. So America is looking like it's somewhat divided, and it can be, it's a possibility that this will break out into something that's really going to divide America and fulfill prophecy in terms of ruler fighting ruler. Democrat versus Republican. So we wait and we watch and see what happens. If Trump is still going to run and able to and not in jail, and then I think there's a high probability there'll be some significant, let's call it, division. So that's what I got for today, and I think it's serious. And in the meantime, China and Russia are thinking that this BRICS thing is going to bail them out of their money problems. And I have a strong feeling America is going to make sure that doesn't happen. Let's watch. And that's what I got for today. So please pray for me and my wife, Rivka. Pray for us. We'll do spiritual warfare because a lot of people are attacking us. Okay? Trying to get us in a bad way. Okay? So she's got her own people following her, so she's a threat, and I'm a threat. So we're getting a lot of attack efforts. So please work against that with spiritual warfare and prayer. And pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and our relaxation, and our finances, and pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole, and not run away. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray for better videos. And I thank you guys for the offerings. Keeps us going. Like I mentioned yesterday, for those of you who really got issues with not being able to easily or at all give offerings, you can do Amazon gift cards. You just deliver it by email to my email address. And we buy from Amazon stuff every month, so it would be useful. And the MoneyGram and the Western Union, Schmuck and Yahoo passed a lot of laws here, and they are trying to control money laundering in very small, minuscule amounts, which sounds farcical to me. And I tried having somebody send MoneyGram, and it never went through. They don't want it. They're afraid of getting hit with a money laundering fine in millions. They just don't deliver the money. People went and said, yeah, we could deliver it to Israel, and they sent it. And then I got the tracking number, and it was not available because they don't deliver money to Israel. You can send money out of Israel, so I don't even want to try Western Union. So that's it. We do Patreon and GoFundMe, and they work out well. All right, I'll keep you updated. Make sure you're subscribed. If I have to do emergency updates, I'll do them. And that's what I got. I hope you got something out of it. And make sure you pay attention to my Telegram and Twitter. They're highly relevant these days. And I'm out.